Ladies and gentlemen, the one good thing about Democrats, let me tell you the one good thing about Democrats is that they're honest. Now, most people might not be able to see what I see and what you see, but they're very, very honest. They don't care. They don't care if there's no direct evidence. They don't care if they're only going with hearsay, gossip, anecdotal evidence, circumstantial evidence not backed up by any direct form of any documents, any directive, any order, any command from President Trump to withhold military assistance to Ukraine because he was trying to interfere in the 2020 election. They're going to impeach him. They don't care. They're going to impeach President Trump on the viewpoints of diplomats and scholars who have no evidence. And now there's a New York Times article that is really, really interesting. It's kind of hilarious. The New York Times article is supposed to be this breakthrough article that says, there was so much discussion that President Trump was withholding military assistance because of his fear of Biden. That Schumer is now demanding, because of the New York Times article, that it does not list direct evidence, that only lists further hearsay, gossip, innuendo, conjecture. Because of that New York Times article, they're demanding that Bolton, Mulvaney, McGahn testify. They're demanding new evidence, new documents to be disclosed. So President Trump didn't delete 30,000 yoga emails. No, that was Clinton. But here, Washington Post, breakthrough new revelations just weaken Trump's impeachment defenses. No, it didn't. But extraordinary new revelations in the New York Times about Trump's corrupt freezing of military aid to Ukraine will or should make this much harder to get away with. Get away with what? There's no direct evidence. They cannot prove anything. So what they're using is the equivalent of saying that, hey, money flowed into the Clinton Foundation, and then 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, the sale of to the Kremlin, was not vetoed by President Obama. So if you want to go ahead and say money flowed into the Clinton Foundation from 85 donors and $156 million flowed in from those 85 donors, those 85 donors met with Secretary Clinton, Democrats say, well, where's the direct evidence? Where's the evidence stating that she met with those people because of the money? There's also deleted emails. There's also private servers that were completely autonomous. That even the intelligence community had technically had no knowledge of. But they don't have any direct evidence of President Trump doing anything. When Biden said that when Biden was bragging and boasting about withholding military assistance from Ukraine, withholding $1 billion. $1 billion. They say Trump withheld hundreds of billions. Was 300 million, something like that. Biden withheld $1 billion in loan guarantees. $1 billion. Unless they fired a prosecutor, and he boasted that Ukrainian officials pushed back, as any country would. And they said, you don't have the authority, Biden. You don't have the authority to stop, to force us to fire a prosecutor. What's your authority? And he said, go call the president. He implicated President Obama. Clapper also implicated President Obama. So when you want to talk about, Trump is a, horrible bigot, Trump is, horrible. What's the first thing that James Clapper and Biden say? Oh, well, we'll blame President Obama. Initially, it wasn't our fault. You can call President Obama. Clapper, when he was pressed, said, well, we investigated Trump. This was a directive from the Obama administration. We wouldn't have done it had the administration never told us there were concerns. He said that on CNN. First thing Vice President Biden says is, go call President Obama, implicating President Obama, implicating him. Because the Ukrainian officials told him, hey, you have no authority. You have no authority to withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees. You have no right, no authority, no justification to tell us to fire a prosecutor. It's not official foreign policy. And if it's official foreign policy, you don't do so at spur of the moment, impromptu, threat or literal quid pro quo. You will not get the $1 billion in loan guarantees until you fire this prosecutor. I am leaving in 6 hours. Call the president if you don't believe me, because they stated categorically. They stated, you don't have the authority, Biden. And he said, well, go call President Obama. That's quid pro quo. There's nothing like that. That's an admission from Biden. And they don't put two and two together. They say, well, it's completely irrelevant, the conflicts of interest. So they don't make the link. So there's Biden forcing Ukrainian prosecutors who are pushing back and resisting the vice president's call to fire, to force them to fire their own government official. Imagine if some other country told us to, oh yeah, Comey, he's corrupt. Go. We would never stand for it. Even with Comey, the Inspector Clouseau, the giant, biggest imbecile we've ever had, physically, perhaps the biggest imbecile the United States has ever had, Comey, but we would never stand for it. So obviously, Ukrainian officials had every right to push back. I mean, what would you do if you were in a country? Doesn't matter the corruption, whatever. In another country says, go ahead and fire that prosecutor. We want you to fire that prosecutor. You're not going to get the money. That's what Vice President Biden did. They don't connect that to any conflicts of interest that even impeachment witness, former Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch stated. Marie Yovanovitch stated President Obama's administration gave her talking points regarding Hunter Biden's conflicts of interest. They talk about Matt Gaetz. Hunter is accused, allegedly, of smoking narcotics in gentlemen's clubs. Nothing wrong with going to a gentleman's club. Smoking the type of narcotics, smoking any narcotics in a gentleman's club. You failed a paternity case, which you shouldn't even have taken to court. You should be happy. God gave you a gift. Okay, whatever. Now the judge wants 3 years of his tax records, and the lady in the paternity case that is winning the case wants the how much money Burisma paid Hunter. But the prosecutor that Biden fired, forced to let go, forced the Ukraine to oust, was also looking into and investigating and initiating a criminal probe into Burisma. Burisma was funneling millions to Biden's son. That's a fact. Whether you want to attribute Biden's actions to those conflicts of interest is another story. But you can make direct correlations. That's not circumstantial evidence. That's not enough. Why? Because it's officially U.S. foreign policy. The president decides foreign policy. The president crafts U.S. foreign policy, not the vice president. Where are the documents? Where is the proof that Vice President Biden acted on behalf of the interests of the United States of America? Where's the evidence? Why? Because foreign officials agreed with him. But they're saying right now, and it's really, really interesting. They're saying, well, this new report states that, this new report states that President Trump withheld military assistance. The New York Times report does not list any evidence. In fact, if you look at 538 right here, there's an article. December 2nd, 2019. Do Democrats have enough smoking gun evidence for impeachment? Great article, by the way. And it states, there is at present no single piece of evidence that conclusively links Trump to the Ukraine scandal, like the taped transcript of President Nixon ordering the Watergate cover-up. That particular piece of evidence was such a decisive smoking gun that its release forced Nixon's resignation within a matter of days. Democrats' case against Trump, on the other hand, doesn't have the one key piece of evidence directly linking Trump to a quid pro quo. So a question moving forward is whether Democrats have enough of a smoking gun to persuade voters that Trump committed impeachable offenses, or if the missing evidence will turn up. Okay. That's a fantastic article by 538. By the way, NPR quoted me and Nate Silver. The article is below in the pinned comment. Please check it out. Please share that article everywhere if you're still on social media. I do not have a Twitter account. I do not have a Facebook account. Of course, I have H.A. Goodman, around 150,000 subs, this channel, and also H.A. Goodman's other channel. So you have to also understand, it was not just 538. Do Democrats have enough smoking gun evidence for impeachment? Do Democrats have enough smoking gun evidence for impeachment? And I'll just read it again. It's really important. There is at present no single piece of evidence that conclusively links Trump to Ukraine scandal like the tape transcript of President Nixon ordering the Watergate cover-up. This is a brilliant article, and I give 538 major props, major respect. Nobody there they probably don't have no idea who I am, and if they probably learned of my writing in the Huffington Post, the Hill, Salon, the Daily Caller, the Federalist, the Jerusalem Post, maybe they wouldn't like me because they're probably most very liberal. I think a couple people there actually don't like me, one person, but anyway, maybe that person's no longer there. I don't know. But this is a fantastic, brilliant journalist who wrote this, Amelia Thompson DeVoe. And this is one of the great articles, and it actually is obviously leaning towards a liberal viewpoint, but do Democrats have enough smoking gun evidence for impeachment? And obviously they don't. This 538 article states that as well. However, it's not just that. It's Associated Press analysis, lots of impeachment evidence, but one thing still missing by Julia Pace, November 21st, 2019. Yet the witnesses' accounts left one prominent hole that offered a lifeline for Trump and his GOP allies. None of the witnesses can personally attest Trump directly conditioned the release of the $400 million in military aid on a Ukraine announcement of investigations into former Vice President Joe Biden, Democratic National Committee. Yet the witness accounts, and this is another fantastic article. I'm giving you two of the great articles. I'll put them below in the description section. You know what? I'll put them in the pinned comment. They'll be below in the pinned comment. Okay? Yet the witness accounts left one prominent hole that offered a lifeline for Trump and his GOP allies. None of the witnesses could personally attest that Trump directly conditioned the release of the $400 million in military aid on a Ukraine announcement of investigations into former Vice President Joe Biden and the Democratic National Committee. So I gave you a 538 article, and I gave you an Associated Press article that completely and utterly obliterates the hysteria regarding impeachment. That completely and utterly obliterates the hysteria behind impeachment, because they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. So, and then you have an interesting, this is justsecurity.org. This is like a hardcore liberal establishment, DC establishment blog that they even have like a timeline of Trump Russia, even though the Mueller probe literally stated there was nobody who conspired with Russia, no evidence to indict anyone on being a foreign agent or campaign finance violations or conspiring or anything. In addition to attacking Sondland's credibility, a second line of defense is the dearth of other witnesses with direct evidence. Well, yeah, right. As to why, Mulvaney gave contradictory answers. Hold on. And so while the record has circumstantial evidence, it is missing testimony from key participants, and the House did not press for such testimony. Okay, it is missing testimony. In addition to attacking Sondland, a second line of defense is the dearth of other witnesses with direct evidence. No, there is no direct evidence. So this article, Mulvaney gave contradictory answers in a botched press conference and a subsequent retraction, and neither he nor any of the other key players showed up to give testimony under oath. Okay, so while the record has circumstantial evidence, it is missing testimony from key participants. So they try to say there's direct evidence, which there isn't. There is no direct evidence because we have the 538 article, we have the Associated Press article, and so this Just Security article is kind of like trying to just say, well, there's direct evidence in the form of people accusing Trump. But they don't have any, even once they say, in addition to Sondland's credibility, a second line of defense is the dearth of other witnesses with direct evidence as to why the White House meeting and congressional aid were put off and why the aid was subsequently released. See, look what they do. This is a semantic game that they play. Direct evidence as to why, not direct evidence that it happened. So they're being pretty honest here in a very surreptitious manner. But they're admitting there is no direct evidence. There's only direct evidence as to why it might have happened. And then they say there's circumstantial evidence and missing testimony from key participants. Doesn't matter. So that's a blog that or publication trying desperately to get Trump. But see, here's another. Okay, this is another Associated Reuters article. Republicans accuse Democrats of embarking on a politically driven mission to oust Trump from office without direct evidence. He abused his power, obstructed Congress, or committed other impeachable offenses. So what they've done is now you have articles, whereas the November 21st Associated Press article and the December 2nd 538 article literally state there is no direct evidence. What they've done is they've taken it to another level and stated, well, that's not necessarily could be the case. Because the articles before the impeachment were like, yeah, that is the case. There's no direct evidence. Now they're saying, well, Republicans claim there's no direct evidence, even though it's obvious there is no direct evidence. And the historical record shows there is no direct evidence. 538, Associated Press. Give me your thoughts below. Check out AJ Goodman's other channel right this second. Check it out right now.